恭敬大德圣听，为此法会，济一切众生，亲真妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，殊真无生。Well, the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attempt bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanbuddho che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha. Welcome back. My name is JinHe, and you are here for lecture number, 161 of our exploration of the Dharma using the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra as our guide. Okay, let me get my slides. My slides were just there, it disappeared. Okay, now I got it. Now, I always, because we have some new friends, Dharma friends with us, mostly from Singapore, I always begin by asking, first by welcoming all of you, welcome, and also by asking if anyone has any questions, because I want people to feel comfortable asking questions. As long as it has to do with the Dharma, it doesn't have to do with the sutra that we are studying. As long as it is based on the Dharma, okay, all questions are welcome. You can either unmute your microphone anytime and ask your question. You don't have to, be paise, okay? You don't have to worry if you're interrupting, because I rather people ask questions and understand than just talk all the time, okay? Or you can type it into the chat box, all right? And if you prefer to say it in Chinese or some other language, we'll try to accommodate that as well. Okay? All right. So, does anyone have any questions? Keeping my fingers crossed. Hopefully, our new Dharma friends will have a question. No? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Anyway, you can. Yes, Jacqueline.
Amitabha, this is my first time attending Dharma course, and I don't understand what's the difference between sutra and mantra. Can you enlighten me?
Okay, that's a very good question. A sutra, which is, let me show you this. This Medicine Master Buddha Sutra that you see on your screen. Sutras are discourses that were spoken by the Buddha, and a lot of it are made up of stories. So that's what is we normally known as sutra. And then when it comes to mantra, just give me a second. Okay, because Medicine Master Buddha Sutra has a mantra as well. Okay, but let me find the mantra. Hold on. Okay, got it. Let me put it on screen. Let me adjust what you can see. And okay, like this. This right at the top, that's a mantra. Mantras are usually, I won't go much into it, but mantras are like they call it dharani, or a sequence of words that carries an efficacious nature. Okay, so that's a mantra, like Om Mani Padme Hum is a mantra, whereas a sutra is an explanation given by the Buddha. Okay, so that's a short answer for what's the difference between a sutra and a mantra. If that's not enough, you can type in the chat box, or you can ask me later. Feel free. Yeah. Anyone else? Any more questions? No? Okay, so now so we're going to start with this. The Sutras of the Buddha, actually the S should, normally it's a capital S because it's a sutra. So the sutras, or the teachings of the Buddha, contain countless metaphors, and that's by Bodhidharma. Why am I starting with this? Well, the sutra section that we are starting with today is all about understanding the sutra and what do certain words mean. Because Mahayana sutras are very deep. They say one thing, but the meaning is a different meaning, So let's, I'll begin by reciting the sutra text first. We have about 3 or 4 slides. And then I'll come back to the first slide and take note of the different areas that I want to highlight today. Okay, so I'm going to put my palms together. The Buddha told Manjushri is a bodhisattva, so the Buddha told Manjushri bodhisattva, so it is, it is exactly as you say, Manjushri. If there are good men and women of pure faith who wish to make offerings to their world-honored one, Medicine Master Vaidurya Light Tathagata, they should first make an image of that Buddha and arrange a pure and clean dais on which to place the image. Then they should strew all kinds of flowers, burn different incenses, and adorn the place with a variety of banners and streamers. I'm going to come back to this and explain some of the terms. I'm just going to go to the next slide first. For 7 days and 7 nights, they should observe the 8 precepts and eat pure food. Having bathed until clean and fragrant, they should put on clean clothes. Their minds should be undefiled, without thoughts of anger and malice. Toward all sentient beings, they should cherish thoughts of benevolence, peace, kindness, compassion, joy, giving, and equanimity. Excuse me. Playing musical instruments and singing praises, they should circumambulate clockwise around the Buddha's image. Moreover, they should recall the merit and virtue of that Tathagata's past vows. They should read and recite this sutra, ponder its meaning, and lecture on and explain it, which is what we're doing right now. Then they will obtain whatever they seek. Those who seek long life will attain longevity. Those who seek wealth will gain wealth. Those who seek an official position will obtain it, and those who seek his son or daughter will have one. Please excuse my coughing. I'm having long COVID. I've been coughing for many months now, but I'm seeing a doctor, so hopefully I'm going to get better soon. But in the meantime, you will all have to suffer through my coughing. Okay, now let's go back to the first slide. So usually, okay, like 8 precepts. Now we will explain what 8 precepts are, and then when it comes to pure food, I would bet 99.9% when we talk about pure food, people will say, oh, okay, for Buddhists it's vegetarian food, but it's not just any vegetarian food, it's vegetarian food. Sorry, excuse me. It's vegetarian food that has to be free of garlic and onions, right? Garlic, onion, chives, and leeks. That's, yeah, you can't have any of that, and it's considered pure food. But we shall see what pure food really means, okay? Then the Buddha says you bathe. Okay, what is bathing? Is it just taking a shower and cleaning ourselves, or is it more than that? All right? And then the Buddha says that our state of mind, if you want to make offerings to the Buddha, what kind of character should you develop? What kind of person should you be? So the Buddha says your mind should be pure, which means no thoughts of anger, no thoughts of malice. You shouldn't wish for bad things for anyone. And then the Buddha says instead, what you should do for all living beings, not just humans, but for all living beings. That includes ants, for example, in your kitchen, cockroaches, which personally for me is very hard to do. I'm very, very scared of cockroaches. But the Buddha says to all sentient beings, you should cherish thoughts of benevolence, peace, kindness, compassion, joy, giving, or generosity, and equanimity. The last of them, in the orange color, are known as the Brahma Viharas, or abode of the gods. Because if you want to go to heaven, those are the qualities that you need to get to heaven. So it's called abode of the gods, Brahma Viharas. I have covered these 4 in great detail in previous lectures, so I won't be covering that today. Okay, now then the Buddha also said playing musical instruments and singing praises. What is that? Well, if you have come for any fahui or any ceremony in a temple, usually the Mahayana temple, Theravada temples do not have instruments. And you will hear the sound of a handbell. I have a handbell in front of me. Let me see if you can hear it. Can you hear that? That's a handbell. We have also the drum, the banging of the drum. And we chant or we sing. And we try to be as melodious as possible. That's praises. That's considered singing praises. And then we also round 4 or circumambulate around the Buddha hall. Around the Buddha, we constantly keep the Buddha to the right, to the right. So we walk in clockwise motion, and that's a sign of respect in bearing the right shoulder towards the Buddha. And then it says we should recall the merit and virtue of that Tathagata's past vows. Why should we do that? What has the merit and virtue of a Buddha have to do with us? So we're going to answer that as well. But we're not today. I don't think we can get that much done, but we'll try. And then the Buddha said they should read and recite this sutra. Okay, so we've already done half. We've done both of it. We've read it already. We've recited it. Hopefully, when I was reciting it, you were reciting with me, or maybe you did half. Ponder its meaning. That's interesting. Why should we ponder its meaning? Lecture on and explain it, which is what I'm doing. And then we will obtain whatever we seek. That's why. And if you want long life, wealth, you want a son, you want a daughter, you want an official position, you will get it. Okay? So is the sutras that simple? I have a question for everyone. Is the Dharma that simple? Just do this. Okay? What do we do?
No.
No? Okay. All right, good. Suiling has said no. So what should we do? Make an image of a Buddha. You can go to your printer, you can print out an image of the Buddha. Okay, let's make it simple. All right. Or if you have skills, if you are a painter, you can paint an image. If you are a sculptor, you can sculpt. If you have a studio where you can actually do casting, you can cast. Yeah, Ron, you have a question?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't turn it off. Didn't turn my audio off.
Okay, thank you. So all you do is make an image, all right? Then you just take a bunch of flowers, you strew it all around, throw it all around. You burn different incenses. You just go to the shop, buy some incense, and you burn all the different incenses. And then for 7 days, 7 nights, you just observe the 8 precepts. You eat vegetarian food, which is so easy to do now, not like long time ago, like 30 years ago, it was so difficult to find. Now almost everywhere you go, you cannot avoid vegetarian food. Then you take a shower, which we all do all the time anyway, right? Put on clean clothes, and we try our best to be nice to people, to have kindness and compassion. Then we just read some praises from the sutra, walk around the Buddha a few times, think of the Buddha a bit, read and recite this sutra, we think about it a bit, maybe not lecture, maybe lecture has different meanings, you can explain it to yourself or the people around you, and then we get what we seek, right? Easy, straightforward, right? Okay, now, I have something to share with you all, which is from Bodhidharma. Okay, Bodhidharma was I think the 28th Patriarch in India. It was the last Patriarch of India, maybe number 27 or maybe 26. Sorry, I can't remember, I can't recall exactly. But he was the final Patriarch of India. Why final? Because he left India. Yeah, there was no Patriarch after that, and he went to China because he felt that the time was right to introduce the proper Dharma to China. At that time, people in China was already practicing Buddhism, but the Buddhism they practiced was kind of like the Buddhism we have now. What kind of Buddhism you're going to find out, all right? So this was a question that was posed to Bodhidharma. Why? Because Bodhidharma always emphasized, if you look at on the screen, you look at the third line, the last third line. He says, but if beholding the mind includes all other practices, then such works as this would appear redundant. Because at that time in China, it's just like here. People join a lot of fahuis, they make images of Buddhas, they sing praises of the Buddha. But from as far as Bodhidharma was concerned, he always promoted beholding the mind. What is beholding the mind? It's meditation. It's the results of, technically it's the benefits, the outcome of meditation, which is to see your original nature. Oh, excuse me. It is about oh my. Okay. It is about uncovering your wisdom, the wisdom of the Buddhas that's in all of us right now. Okay, so that's Bodhidharma's intention. Why? Because he's the Patriarch. He represents the true Dharma, the real intent of the Buddhas, what the Buddhas were actually teaching. Not what people thought the Buddha meant, okay, but what Buddha really meant. That's what Patriarchs are. Patriarchs represent the proper Dharma. So the question for Precepts Bodhidharma was this. It said, throughout the sutras, the Buddha tells mortals they can achieve enlightenment by performing such meritorious works as what? Building monasteries, casting statues. So what you see in orange is what we read in our Medicine Master Buddha Sutra, okay, which is very similar to this question. So casting statues, which is, in other words, making images, burning incense, scattering flowers, lighting eternal lamps. Right now in our passage, it doesn't say anything about lamps, but in other pages of our sutra it does. And it says practicing all 6 periods of the day and night. Our sutra talks about 7 days and 7 nights. It's the same principle. And then it says walking around stupas. That's circumambulation. And it talks about observing fast. The fast is always known as the 8 precepts. So here, observing fast means the 8 precepts and eating pure food. All right. And worshipping. Worshipping can take on many forms. Singing praises is one form. Bowing is another form. So worshipping. So the question is, all right, the sutras say that you can get a lot of benefits if you do all these practices. But why do you, Precepts Bodhidharma, only talk about beholding the mind? Okay, all right. So Bodhidharma's reply at it was, he says, the sutras of the Buddha contain countless metaphors. Metaphors means you say one thing but you mean another. Wait, is that metaphor? Wait, hold on. I don't want to... because there are similes and there are metaphors. Let me see. Anyone knows the exact meaning of metaphor? I don't want to think I know, but actually not. Okay, metaphor is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. Okay, so we say one thing but we mean another thing. All right, that's metaphor. We use it all the time. Our songs, our language, poetry, everything is all metaphor. Everyday language metaphor. We'll come to that. Okay. Then Bodhidharma says, because mortals have shallow minds and don't understand anything deep, the Buddha used the tangible to represent the sublime. People who seek blessings by concentrating on external works instead of internal cultivation are attempting the impossible. What is impossible here? To end birth and death, to uncover your original wisdom, okay, to see your Buddha nature. All those mean the same things. So what Bodhidharma is saying is that all those things, like making Buddha images, reciting sutras, praising the Buddha, is not going to help you end birth and death. Okay? Does anyone agree or disagree?
Agree.
You agree? Okay. Why?
Yes.
Because it's Bodhidharma?
No. Because if you do not cultivate, I mean, building, doing all those things that you mentioned can only create blessings.
Oh, okay.
Okay. To cultivate means is to cultivate virtue. Virtue. So you must have virtue. So to have virtue, you must do meditation and uncover your wisdom, so that so you understand what it is to do good. It's not just to go to the temple and pray, and give food to the monks. That is not enough. That is not virtue. That is blessings.
Okay, very good. Okay, anyone else? I think Peggy, you had your microphone, or Alec. I saw Alec's microphone. Yes, Alec.
Yes, I think you have to have both virtues and blessings, because without blessings, it will be difficult for you to practice. And so if you do not have these practices, meritorious practices, then it will be difficult in Chinese, you would have to have sangen, to have good roots, and you have to, at a basic level, have to plant good roots. and then you'll be able to progress in your virtuous practices.
Very good. Okay, anyone else? I think Peggy. Okay, Lina says these are building up our merits or blessings, but we are still full of faults that need to be addressed. Oh, very good. Okay. Maybe I don't have to lecture. I can just ask you all to lecture on my behalf. If it continues like this, I will have a very easy job. I'll just claim the credit. Okay. Now, anyone else?
Yeah, Dharma Master, I would like just to give an example. Like someone who eats vegetarian food. Okay? I mean, you can eat vegetarian food, but if you have a lot of defilements and afflictions, like you like to scold people, or you do things that, that is, maybe you have some very, not very good traits in you, like impatience, anger. So it's not going to help you, I mean, you can eat vegetarian food, that is good. But if you don't get rid of your defilements and afflictions, that is not cultivation. Cultivation is to look at the faults within you and to correct them. That is creating virtue.
Yes, very good. Yes. Anyone agree or disagree with Swee Ling? Okay, let's see what Bodhidharma has to say. But before that, metaphors, saying one thing and meaning another, is not only used in everyday language, it is also what you use when you have to explain things to someone. For example, when you explain something to a child, and the reality of things is that it is too complicated, then the child cannot understand. So you use examples to give the child an idea. It's not going to represent the real thing, but it's an idea that the child can take at their level and develop from there. So metaphors fill that role instead. And here, when Bodhidharma says external works, you will see that in orange on your screen, external works. What that means is the form of the practice. You want to see the form of the practice? You see anyone who says that they do their daily homework. Okay, they recite mantras at home, or they bow to the Buddha, or you come to the temple, there's a fahui going on, and like the 10,000 Buddha repentance at the city of 10,000 Buddhas, and everyone's bowing and bowing up and down, up and down and down. Those ceremonies represent the form of the practice. So reciting sutras, making offerings, all those things. During the Buddha's time, all these things didn't exist. Okay, all these things came later. And we'll also look at how these things came about. All right, so these are the form. Okay, now, then Bodhidharma says internal cultivation. Internal cultivation means you understand the meaning or the purpose behind the practice. When you're bowing, as the body is bowing, you understand what to do with your mind. Okay, if it's about repentance, you understand what you're supposed to repent or what repentance is all about. So internal means, internal cultivation can only happen when you understand the spirit or the intent of the form. Okay, so like Alex says, you need both. Yes, outside with the body, you do something, but inside, you're supposed to do the corresponding function of the mind, the transformation of your habits. So it's where one's intention comes from, is where you overcome your wrong views, you understand your attachments, you understand where your ignorance comes from, and you change from unwholesome habits to wholesome habits. That is internal cultivation, okay? And when you only have the external form without the internal cultivation of what Swee Ling has mentioned just now, your practice becomes lopsided. There is a story, okay, a very good, very fast story that I'll share about this man who died without any children, and everyone thought he was a beggar, but when he died, it turned out that he was very, very rich, and the money all went to the king. Why everyone thought he was like a penniless person? Because that's how he lived his life. And then the Buddha explained that in the past life, this man had made offerings to a Prachika Buddha. The Prachika Buddha is someone without being able to access the Dharma, meaning there's no Buddha or Dharma around, can still end birth and death. That's known as a Prachika Buddha, or a solitary enlightened one. So this man, I think it was his wife who made offerings to the Prachika Buddha. And then he had a thought. He says, why should we offer food to such a person? It would have been better to offer food to my own people instead. So he regretted his act of generosity. He had second thoughts. So as a result of that, he was, in this life, he had a lot of money. He was actually very, very rich. Why? Because he made an offering to a Prachika Buddha, which is very rare, very hard to do. So he became very rich, but because of the nature of his mind, which was not pure, he was not good, he could not enjoy his wealth. His selfish nature, he just could not enjoy it. So instead of being able to create more blessings, benefit people, create actual merit and blessings are different, by the way, which I've covered in many lectures, but I will not cover today, but in another time. He missed all of that, although he had the means to do so. Okay, why? Because he did the external, but he neglected the internal. All right. Okay, now moving on. Okay, what I have on my screen, I'm not sure if you can read it. It might be a bit small. It says, when a person acts in violation of the precepts, he excites and reinforces the very same mental factors his practice of meditation is intended to eliminate. Okay, now let me ask you, how many of you consider yourself a Mahayana Buddhist? Okay, this is actually a bit silly of me to ask because I can't see all of you. Okay, but I'm sure if you are here, most of you, okay, if not all, most of you would consider yourselves as Mahayana Buddhists. Okay, now, does anyone not understand what Mahayana means?
I don't understand. Sorry.
Okay, Theravada and Mahayana. Okay, and there's a third school, Vajrayana. Theravada is what you find in Thailand. Okay, is what you find in Sri Lanka, but mainly Thailand and Sri Lanka. And at the city of 10,000 Buddhas, when Shufu donated the land to Abhayagiri Monastery, Abhayagiri is known as a Thai forest tradition. That's Theravada. In Theravada, the text or the sutras of the Theravada canon is all about ending birth and death. Okay, it's known as the 37 wings of enlightenment, and it's all about ending birth and death. Mahayana sutras is about the Buddha teaching bodhisattvas. It's about how to become a Buddha and how to walk the bodhisattva path. So you not just end your own birth and death, but you do it because you want to come back and you want to save people that you care for, like your parents, your children, your relatives, people that you really care for, you want to save them. That's known as Mahayana. Vajrayana, which is Tibetan Buddhism, is also Mahayana. Okay, slight difference, but it's same. The teachings are the same. Okay, now the Mahayana canon or collection of teachings, or also known as a Tripitaka, also contains the Theravada sutras. Okay, so technically, if you want to consider yourself Mahayana, you must first have a good understanding of the Theravada sutras. Why? Okay, you can think of Theravada like secondary school and Mahayana as university. You can only claim, okay, that you are a university student, or you can only be a university student if you have gone through secondary school. But if you haven't gone through secondary school and you straight, you leap, from primary school, you skip 6-7 years of education, or maybe 5 years, depending on which country you're from, and you end up in university, you lack a very strong foundation to understand what's going on. So you may understand the words that is taught to you in a university class. In other words, you can read about the concepts or the principles, but you don't know how it works. You can't explain it to other people because you don't have the fundamentals. So Theravada explains a lot about the cause and effect behind the practice. Without that understanding, the person who calls themselves Mahayana, they might, okay, not all of them, but to them, Buddhism might seem to rely on prayers. Praying for the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to help you. You go to the temple, like Sri Ling said earlier, you go to the temple and you pai. You light incense and you pray asking for help. To them, Buddhism is more like superstition or like a religion or a theistic religion. Theistic means you have a God and you depend on the God for salvation. It's not up to you, but it's up to the God. If you want something, you have to be quiet, you have to be a good person, and the God will help you. So without proper foundation of Buddhism, there's a risk of turning Buddhism into a superstitious or religious belief. Okay, but
So,
okay.
sorry.
Yes, Jacqueline.
So that means Puak Pue also considered as superstitious.
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear part of it.
We go to Singapore Waterloo Goddess of Mercy Temple, right? Then we were 求签 Puak Pue. Do we also consider superstitious?
Chu Chen is the one where you shake the thing with little sticks and one drops out. Is that?
Yes. And then you have the crescent moon type of the the pue. Then we throw, and then one must be facing up, one facing down. That means yes, it's kind of
Yes,
indication.
that is not a Buddhist practice. That is a strictly Taoist practice. Yeah, that is definitely not a Buddhist practice. Okay, all right. Because if you go to an actual Buddhist temple, so Taoist temples are very confusing because they look like Buddhist temples. They have Kuan Yin. Sometimes they might even have the Buddha, and there's a historical reason for that. Because the Taoist religion was kind of defeated. They wanted to challenge Buddhism, but they lost. So from then on, the emperor said you should always have Kuan Yin, at least in your temple. So Taoist temples, sometimes people think they're Buddhist temples, but a proper Buddhist temple, most of the time, you don't even light an incense in the Buddha hall. Yeah. All right, we'll come to that. Okay. All right. Now, why am I telling you this? It's because if you have a proper foundation in Theravada teachings and then you go on to the Mahayana, you will realize that what Bodhidharma says about beholding the mind or to uncover your true nature or to end birth and death or to see your original face, these all the same, they mean the same thing, to end suffering. The only way to do that is through meditation, is to breaking through the five skandhas, or what is known as the false body and mind. Okay, and how does that happen? Well, let me show you this. It begins with precepts. All right, and precepts here is not just like what we know of, like the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, or the precepts of a monastic, like the 10 precepts and the 256 precepts. Precepts here means more than that. It means your character. Okay, it means who you virtue is part of it. Kindness and compassion is part of it as well. It's how you treat people. It's how you see yourself and how you see people. And so precepts here means your character, your virtue, and that's evident in your relationships. You always try your best in doing wholesome deeds with the people around you. So questions like generosity, being filial, being able to recognize gratitude, being able to recognize kindness when it is shown to you, and then being able to bring forth gratitude for that kindness and a wish to repay the kindness, such as the kindness of parents or the kindness of our teachers, or better still, the kindness of the Buddhas. it is all those qualities that make you really outstanding as a human being. People like to be close to you. Why? Because they feel safe. You will not lie to them. You will not cheat them. You will not harm them. If they have babies, they will be very happy if they just throw their baby at you and ask you to take care of their baby, because they know that their babies and their children is not only in good hands, but that you will be a very good role model for them. So in villages, this would be the elders, in traditional times when there are village elders, a source of wisdom people go to when they have problems or they want to solve disputes, and they know they will be treated fairly, like that. All right. Now, when you live your life like that, all right, the way you treat people with kindness, and you yourself are happy, so you can wish for others to be happy, and it shows. What happens is that your life, the Buddha says, naturally you will be free of remorse. What's free of remorse? Free of remorse is is that you're free from second guessing or second thoughts, like, oh, I should have said that, oh, I shouldn't have argued with my mother, or you say, maybe a worst case scenario is you argue with someone you really care for, you say something very hurtful, and then that person leaves the world and there's no chance for you to say sorry anymore, and then you're filled with remorse and regret. Things like that. But on an everyday level, so if you have proper character, you conduct yourself well, respectfully, and with people, you're always looking out for their interests. The Buddha says you don't have to wish for freedom of remorse. That will happen naturally. It's cause and effect. Okay, and then the Buddha says, when you have freedom from remorse, you don't have to wish that you have joy. Why? Because it will happen by itself. You just feel very peaceful, very contented as you go about life. It's like you have a quiet smile on your face. Then the Buddha says, and when you sit and meditate, taking that and then you go and sit and meditate, then you will feel rapture. What is rapture? Rapture can be explained in different ways. Okay, one of the ways is that when you sit in meditation for long periods, your body doesn't fight against you. Why doesn't your body fight against you? Well, if if you have no stress or anxiety in your life that you create yourself, your body becomes kind of soft. All right. There's something I just remembered. Mati Wahovan, who was the monk who accompanied Rama Heng Shuo on his 3 steps 1 bow. He was known as Heng Chao at that time. So there was Rama Heng Shuo and Heng Chao who did the 3 steps 1 bow. Mati he's now known as Mati Wahovan. He's a professor at our university at Dharma Realm Buddhist University. He's no longer a monk. So he told me this story. He said he was sitting in the back seat with Shufu as they were in the car, and the driver had to brake really hard to avoid hitting the car in front. So instinctively, Mati put out his left hand to protect Shufu. And he said that all he felt was Shufu was very soft. Shufu's body held no tension at all. Shufu didn't tense up. His muscles remained really soft. They say that was the only thing he could remember. That when he put his hand out and Shufu moved forward into his hand, that Shufu's body was very, very soft. Yeah. So it is said that if you live a proper life, in consideration of your own needs as well as the needs of others, your body will become very soft. And when it becomes very soft and you can sit for long periods of time. Now, if you are into the inner kung fu of your body, not really qigong, but it has to do with the qi in the body, that will be a proper condition for the energy to circulate well. And when that happens, there's a term called horripilation, which means your hands, the hairs on your body stand on end. In Hokkien, they say mo kin chang. I don't know how you say it in Cantonese, okay? But that's what it means, horripilation. But when it happens due to your energy flowing, it's a very, very comfortable sensation. And when that happens, your body and mind becomes very tranquil. Okay, this is what the Buddha says. And then if you sit longer, the tranquility turns to happiness. But this happiness is not the happiness that we are aware of. This happiness is very subtle, it's very sublime. It's like the happiness of the dhyanas. And from happiness, when your body doesn't fight against you, when your mind is very quiet, very calm, you're not thinking about what to eat for lunch or what to do tomorrow, what plans for the weekend, or where you want to go for vacation, then your mind is able to concentrate. And when you can concentrate, then you can break through the discrimination that we hold on a daily basis. You see things as they are, and then when you see things as they are, you are not attached to them anymore. Okay, and then you can end birth and death. So this is what Bodhidharma means when he talks about the beholding the mind. Okay, and this is the formula based on cause and effect that is given by the Buddha, or explained by the Buddha. Actually, the Buddha revealed how it works. So whenever you hear the three baskets of precepts, samadhi and wisdom, now you understand how it works, how it all comes together in sequence. Okay, if you want to learn, get this sutra, let me see, what is the, if you want to read it yourself, this is, just give me a moment, where's my notes? Lecture notes. Precept class. This was a class that I gave at CDTB in 2015. It is AN 11.2. Okay, the name of the sutra is called Making a Wish, or Chetanakaraniya Sutta, Making a Wish. Why making a wish? The Buddha says that if you have precepts, you don't have to wish for freedom of remorse, you will get it naturally. And you don't have to wish for joy or gladness, it will happen naturally. That's why it's called wishing. Okay, now let's move on. Back to Bodhidharma. Okay, we've talked about what tangible and, let me see. We talked about metaphors, right? Okay, now let's, let me see, it's 10:25. Do we have any more questions at this time? Because technically I'm supposed to stop at 10:30, but then I always get very excited and I carry on a bit too long. So let me ask, if I want to make sure I have enough time for questions. Do we have any questions at this moment? No? Okay. Now, metaphors. We talked about metaphors, like explaining to a child. Other metaphors that we use all the time. Black heart for evil. In Hokkien, we say chao sim or sim, right? Hak sam in Cantonese. We use colors, for example, like green for jealousy, blue for feeling melancholy, right? And then what else? Yes, I remember when I was about 12 years old and Michael Jackson had his song, and the title of his song was Bad. Okay, B-A-D, bad as in no good, bad. But in that song, bad means good. You know, and a lot of people, like my parents, couldn't understand. Bad, is bad good, or is bad bad, or, you know, they were confused. But the younger generation understood. Okay, so Bodhidharma says the Buddha used the tangible to represent the sublime. Tangible in this context is, we are talking about language, but it also refers to all the things that we can see, hear, smell, taste, feel, and or touch, and ideas. What are those things? What do we see with our eyes? What do we hear with our ears? We smell with our nose. We taste with our tongue or our mouth. We feel with our touch. We have a sense of touch through our body. And ideas are from the mind. So it refers to the world around us, the tangible. Okay, the physical world that includes our body, our experience of life. That's what tangible means here. All right, and then sublime points through true wisdom, the wisdom of the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas. And it is very hard to figure out what true wisdom is. If you have read the Prajna Sutras, like the Heart Sutra, Guan Yin, it says no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body or mind. Okay, so when they say it's no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body or mind, it doesn't mean that all those things disappear. It's like it doesn't mean you become a rock or like a piece of wood. No, it means that it lies beyond the concept. It lies beyond the ability of us to understand. It lies beyond our senses. That's what sublime means here. Sublime means the wisdom or the true teachings of the Buddha. So the Buddha has no choice. He's trying to teach us something that we cannot understand. So the only way the Buddha can try to give us a resemblance of understanding is to use metaphors. It's just like us trying to teach young children. The only way we can do that is to use metaphors. Scientists have this problem. If you're like a scientist in your field and you know everything inside out and you're an expert and you have to explain to people who are not, you have to dumb down the language, you have to make it very, very simple. They treat other people like children. That's it. Tangible and sublime. So it says people who, external works, we've already talked about that. Internal cultivation, we talked about that as well. So the problem is that we can only communicate with language. Okay, the problem with metaphors, all right? What is language? Well, language comes in terms of sound. Like all the Buddha's disciples were known as sound hearers. Okay, why? Because the Buddha taught by speaking, so they could hear by sound, all right? Other forms of language are words, like when we read, images like sign language, or when we watch television, for example. But there's three problems when it comes to language. Okay, when it comes to the language of the Dharma, there are three problems. Number one, language changes over time. Okay, what do I mean? Well, let's look at something simple like Shakespearean English. Shakespearean English is less than 500 years old. All right, but if someone were to go into the world speaking Shakespearean English, no one would understand. Why? Because you would use words like dos, shrift, anon, ravin, unpregnant, which is not what you think unpregnant means. Wherefore, tau, yeah, tau, where, as, tau, yeah, So language over time changes. When the culture change, language changes. Just like when Michael Jackson started singing bad, and people didn't know what bad means. They thought it was bad, but actually it's good. So the problem is when you apply that to metaphors, and metaphors is always based on the culture. There's always context around the metaphor. So when the culture changes, the meaning of the metaphor then gets lost, because you lose the context of which the metaphor makes sense. Okay, so for example, there are a lot of things that like now that make sense in a certain language, like in Hokkien, but when you try to translate to English, it gets lost, right? I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure you all have examples. When you try to translate an idiom from one language to another, sometimes you cannot, because the culture does not allow that to happen. Okay, now one example is the word fire. Okay, there is someone known as Visakha. Visakha is the most famous of the Buddha's lay disciples on the female side. Okay, she's known as the chief patron disciple, chief female patron disciple of the Buddha. That means she's the one that supported the Buddha and the monks the most. Now, when she got married during the Buddha's time, the father gave her 10 pieces of advice. I'm going to only share 3 here. What did the husband say? The father said? The father said, okay, do not carry outside the indoor fire. All right. Number 2, do not take inside the outdoor fire. And number 3, give only to those who give. Okay. Because of my coughing, I've had to drink quite a bit of water. I'm going to take a quick pause. Okay. I want you all to think about it. All right. I can't, let me see. Okay. So do not carry outside the indoor fire and do not bring inside the outdoor fire. Number 1. Number 2, and give only to those that give. All right. I'm going to mute my microphone, but I can hear you all. Anyone who wants to try to explain, or not explain, but share what you think it means. Okay. Please. Okay. Please do that to fill the silence that unfortunately I have to subject you to. All right. Okay. Go ahead. So no one wanted to try? Oh, I feel so bad. Okay, now
Yes,
what it means.
yes. I can try.
Okay, yes, Ruiling.
Your story is that Visakha is going to get married and the father gave her this advice, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do not bring the inside fire to outside. Is that the first question? First advice to the daughter?
Yes.
Okay, that means when a person gets married or when the daughter gets married, whatever when she's married now, whatever is the family issues, it means her marriage, the family, do not go and tell, spread it outside or tell others about it. And then do not bring the outside fire to the inside. That means do not bring outside external issues and bring it and get the family entangled in it. And the third one was what?
Give only to those that give.
It means those who seek your help or your advice, then only you reciprocate.
Okay, 2 out of 3.
It's correct.
You get a B+. Excellent. Yeah. Very good. That means you have good reading. Number 3, give only. Okay, so number 1, don't carry outside the fire inside, or the house in the fire, don't carry it outside, is what Shui Ling said. Don't speak. What happens in the house, you don't have to tell anyone outside, especially if you're not happy with your husband or your parents-in-law. And number 3, give only to those that give. It is you should only lend things to people who will return them. So that's not important. Actually, this 1, 2, 3 not important. But I shared because to show that how maybe at the time when the father gave her the advice, she understood perfectly what that meant. But now that we are so far removed that, unless we have someone who explains, even if we wanted to figure it out, it's not easy. Okay. All right. So number 1, language changes over time. That's the challenge that we face with the language of the Dharma. Okay. Number 1. Number 2 is that the metaphors refer to the true wisdom that lies beyond our 6 senses, and we already covered that. Okay. So, because it lies beyond our ability, just like if you say to someone who's dreaming that, you're actually dreaming right now, your true body is lying down somewhere, they cannot, in your dream, you cannot accept that. Why? Because you think you're already awake, right? So, just as how that explanation is beyond the ability of the dreamer to comprehend or to even accept, when you have that meaning which already cannot be comprehended, and then you add the fact that you can only understand through metaphor, it ends up in a situation that even if you understand the metaphor, it's kind of like we go, oh yeah, I understand, I see it, but it's not true understanding of what's going on. It's only an idea. Okay? Because the metaphor, even the metaphor itself, isn't what's actually going on. You get what I mean? So we are twice removed. We lack the context of the metaphor, and the metaphor itself, even if you can figure it out, is not does not reveal the actual meaning. So we have two problems there. And then third is that we're in the Dharma ending age. Dharma ending age, maybe let me take 5 minutes to explain what Dharma ending age is. During the Buddha's time, for the first 500 years, it was known as the proper Dharma age. What is the proper Dharma age? When the Buddha explained what was going on, people understood. That is why when the Buddha was around, so many people became sages. So many people ended birth and death. A lot of them became arhats. A lot of them became stream enterers, which is first stage arhat. Oh, excuse me, hold on. There are many reasons for that, but also because people knew at that time what the practice meant. They knew how to meditate. And how you say, people's minds at the time of the Buddha were very different from us. Right now we're very scattered, and modern technology just makes it worse. We can actually see the decline in our ability to concentrate from, say, 30, 40 years ago to now, because things are just so different. There are so many things that demand our attention right now all the time that can distract us. So imagine what it was like 3,000 years ago during the Buddha's time, when life was different, values were different, So that's the proper Dharma age. And then 500 years later came the Dharma image age. So from the proper Dharma age, you have the Dharma image age. What is the Dharma image age? Sounds like to me, it's like a tongue twister. That's when forms of the Dharma begin to come about. For example, images of the Buddha. Ceremonies came about. Certain practices came about. Why? Because very wise people, they saw people coming to the temple or the monastery, and they could see that people were forgetting what the teachings were all about. So what they did was they created forms or rituals. All right, rituals is a good word. They created rituals and ceremonies as containers for people to understand how to shape their minds and how to change their habits. So that's the Dharma image age. A lot of images of Buddhas were made during that time. So at that time, people, when they saw the image of the Buddha and they bowed to the Buddha, they understood, I'm bowing to my own potential. The Buddha represents my potential to be just like him. So when they bowed, they didn't bow to an external Buddha like a god. They bowed to their own potential for awakening. And if you understand that, it will transform the way you bow. Okay, you are no longer bowing to external. Now you are also bowing to your internal potential. And it will also transform the way you understand the Buddha's teachings. So that's the Dharma image age. When they do transference, they don't do transference at the end of the ceremony, although transferences in the ritual or ceremony is always at the end. They do, before they even do the ceremony, they're very clear with their intention, why they're doing it. So if you're very clear in the intention, you don't need to transfer at all, because you're already doing it before, during, and after the practice itself. So that's the Dharma image age, when all these rituals, ceremonies, and all that came about. But at that time, when people were doing the ceremonies, they understood what they had to complement the ceremonies with on the internal cultivation. Okay, now we are 3,000 years after the Buddha's time. We are known as the Dharma ending age. Why? Because in the Dharma ending age, people fight over the Dharma. People have the form to guide us. We still have the rituals, we still have the ceremonies, we still have the sutras. but we forget the spirit. We are unable to understand the deep meanings of the sutras. So what happens is this: we go to a temple, there are many people, because I live in a temple, I can see. There are many people who come, they light joystick, and you can see very clearly they're praying for something. It doesn't occur to them that they have to transform themselves. It doesn't occur to them that if they want to end their suffering, they have to do something about it. Because why? They don't know. It's a Dharma ending age. Even when they read the sutras, and the meaning is right in front of them, it just does not get through. Why? Because there's lack of people who explain how to understand the meaning. So a lot of people get satisfied. They say, oh, I've recited the Lotus Sutra 3,000 times. That's actually a story that I have probably for next week. So they say, oh, I bow many times in a day. I recite the Shurangama mantra how many times a day, or the Tapecho or Great Compassion mantra, or Om Mani Padme Hum. But they neglect to do any internal cultivation. So that's the Dharma ending age that we are in. So our third issue is that we are far removed in terms of culture from the Buddha's time, because the sutras were spoken at that time for the people at that time. 3,000 years, that's a long time. Even Shakespeare's English, 500 years, already very confusing. We have to wonder what it means. And when the Buddha is pointing to something that lies beyond our ability to understand through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, it makes it worse. So culture, language, intellect, morality, we are all so different. Okay, so that's the problem of the Dharma ending age. Now, I will show you the next slide, but we are out of time. And what we're going to cover next week will be Bodhidharma explaining. He says people who don't understand true practice, and he says blindly perform good deeds. Okay, what are the good deeds? For example, the 10 good deeds, or the 5 precepts. He says those who blindly observe the 5 precepts, or those who blindly cling to the phenomenal world. So we will go through this next week, as well as, let me see, what it means when he talk about making images. Okay, no, not this one, sorry. Oh, this additional slide here. Casting statues. Bodhidharma talks about casting statues and what it means to cast a statue or to make an image of the Buddha. All right, so we'll go to this next week. Does anyone have any questions before we end? Or any remarks? No? Okay. In that case, we shall transfer merit. Based on the request, we have 2 transference of merit. We alternate every week. Today, we will do the traditional one that's usually done at all the DRBA branches. Okay. Everyone ready? I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Oh my God. Okay. 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, Amitabha. Thank you for joining us this week, and we all see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.